Welcome to our Lunar New Year case.
Ooh, you're the dragon, right? Yeah, I think so.
I think so.
Yeah.
So for Lunar New Year this year, we are going to do a episode on the 2023 Monterey Park shooting. So just last Lunar New Year. And the date of Lunar New Year does change every year.
Yeah.
Lunar New Year is based around, I believe it happens on the first new moon of the year.
Yeah.
So it's going to change no matter what year it is. So this year it is on February 10th. So that's why the episode's coming out on February 10th.
Yeah.
So a little bit of back history on it. Monterey Park is south of Los Angeles. I'm just going to say LA because clearly Los Angeles is a fucking struggle for me to say today. And the area is predominantly Asian descent residents. And every year for Lunar New Year, which is sometimes referred to as Chinese New Year, but it's not just Chinese. It's all-encompassing.
A lot of Asian culture.
Yes. Now, every year they hold a festival in the area. Usually it's over the course of 2 days. It'll be like the eve of, and then the overnight, and then it'll continue on the following day and end on the evening of Lunar New Year's Day.
I think it'd be good to note that even though it's Lunar New Year, that's not when their calendar starts. Their calendar year is like the same as ours too.
Yes, it's the first day.
They just celebrate
the first new moon
twice.
of the year. Yeah. So in 2023 on Lunar New Year's Eve, which was January 21st, tens of thousands of people had gathered to just kind of do these celebrations over the course of 2 days. And in addition to the festival that was going on in Monterey Park, a Chinese-owned dance studio that was nearby called the Star Ballroom Dance Studio, they were holding a countdown dance party from 8 p.m. until 12:30 a.m., just like the overnight kind of thing. We're going to celebrate the countdown kind of thing. And it was separate from the festival celebrations, but it was like people would kind of go back and forth in between and enjoy it.
It's in the same general area kind of thing.
Yeah, it was only just a little ways away from it kind of thing. But it was, all things considered, an entirely separate celebration from this. So at 10:22 p.m. on the 21st of January, the eve of Lunar New Year, reports of gunfire at the Star Ballroom were reported, with police responding from the Monterey Park PD within 3 minutes of the first 911 call. And unfortunately, the gunman had already fled from the scene. So police showed up at the scene to just people running out of the building, just screaming in horror and panic and crying. And with this being a predominantly Asian area, and the dance studios were more popular among the older people, so a lot of the victims were between 50 and 80, I believe. Because it was more of their thing to do kind of thing. Like there were still some youth there, but it was more popular among the older crowd for that. 10 people died at the scene. 10 more were later hospitalized for their injuries. And a total of 42 rounds were fired into the crowd in the ballroom, with an unnamed witness stating that the culprit initially sprayed into the crowd, and then he just kind of walked around and just shot a couple more rounds into some of the people that were already down. Yeah. Like, really fucked up. So, the owner of the studio was immediately like, I've got to save these people. Like, this is my establishment kind of thing. And
right.
It was an older lady. She rushed the gunman and was killed. She was trying to wrestle the gun away from him, and she was killed as a result. And one of the dancers that was there was killed, shielding other people from gunfire. And it was believed that some of the other people that were also killed in an attempt to shield others from the gunfire. And as I said, a lot of the people that died were older.
Yeah. So
I can 100% see them going, if this is what my life means to save these children kind of thing. Because there was a lot of people there. I can totally see someone doing that. And they probably very well did save people's lives. So the thing is Scott Weiss, I believe it's Weiss, W-I-E-S-E. He was the, like, brand spanking new police chief. Like, he had just started working, like, 2 days before the shooting happened. So 2 days into the new job, and like the worst possible thing that could happen fucking happened. And he made the executive decision to delay informing the public that the shooter was still at large until 5 hours after the shooting.
I get it.
I'm gonna side with him on this one, because he said outright
it would have caused more panic.
He did not want to put out inaccurate information, because at this point the only description that they had was that it was an Asian male with a black leather jacket, a black and white beanie, and glasses in a predominantly Asian area.
Yeah. So
he didn't want the wrong people to get in trouble. He didn't want to, like you said, incite panic.
Right.
So at the same time, you know, I feel like it should have been, people should have been made aware that an incident had happened, and that the safest thing to do was
we
get
have
home.
A very vague description. This is what it is, but like it's very vague. We don't know.
I wouldn't at that point even release a description. I would basically just urge people to return to their homes and seek shelter at that point.
Shelter in place, basically.
Exactly. So, and the other thing that played a part in that is a lot of the witnesses that they did have were non-English speaking. I do find a little bit of fault with the police department in this regard, because I feel like if your police department is based in a predominantly Asian area,
have someone that speaks.
You need to have that bilingual thing going on. Even if your first immediate responding officer doesn't have a partner that can speak that language, like there should be someone accessible around the clock kind of thing.
For multiple languages, because it's like, even though it's you could have Mandarin, you can have Japanese, you can have all of these other different languages, because they all kind of coexist in these areas.
Exactly.
To where it's even find someone in the crowd that speaks both and can help translate.
Exactly.
And
which
who
is
knows?
very
they could have tried to do that.
It's very possible that they did try and do that, but they didn't want to, how to word this. It's not that I don't think they wanted to discredit the information the witnesses were giving to them. I think they wanted to verify that they were properly understanding the information they were given, because things can be lost and changed in translation, and they wanted to be able to know beyond
without a shadow of a doubt. Yeah.
Which I commend them in that regard, but I really do feel like there should have been someone on the team.
You know, for a police chief that has only worked like 2 days before this incident, I do believe that was he handled it as best as he honestly could in that situation, because even a chief that had been there, like, let's say 20 years, but he's never seen a mass shooting, like, he probably could have handled it a lot differently. And it's just kind of like, when you're in these situations, you never know how you're going to react. No one knows how they're going to react in like a high stress situation. You can like teach yourself, you can go through like, hey, here's the policies, here's this, but like once it happens, they're like, that
you can
goes
plan
out
it out every way you want, but you don't know what you're going to do till the adrenaline's pumping.
So I mean, honestly, with the way that he handled things, I do give him credit where credit's due. Like, it was a very well thought out thing. I mean, like, yes, obviously, like, they could have told people to go home, they could have had the translator there, but at that time they probably were also going to rely on the fact that there was how many people there, and probably like how many people were able to get a good look at the person.
Right.
And then they also could go to the people who were in the hospital that survived. They could be like, hey, like, since you were within range, like, you probably saw something. And then they can get...
It's not necessarily a guarantee that the people that were shot were in range, though.
Right. But they can go and they can talk to all of these people, and then they can just take, like, okay, so this person said that it was a black hoodie. This person said it was a leather jacket. But then this also person said it was a leather jacket. So then they can go through and be like, okay,
this is the information
out of
matches.
the averages and everything like that. It looks like it was this. He had like this type of pair of glasses on. He had like this. Like, they would be able to find that information out, and that takes time, sadly.
Right.
But at least the only good thing that comes out of these mass shootings is the fact that there is so many people there,
and there's enough.
And
witnesses.
Someone had to be recording. Like, I'm sure if they went that route, so they could have looked through social media and find videos, because
they did manage to get pictures of the culprit on like security cameras and stuff like that from a couple different places that he did end up going. However, the shooting at the Star Ballroom was not the only incident that occurred as a result of this. So 3 miles away in Alhambra at roughly 10:40 p.m., a gunman entered the Lifeline Ballroom and Studio. Now, Brandon Say, he was 26 at the time, and he was there working, but he was also kind of like just doing stuff. And it was a family-owned business. That was his family that owned the business.
So kind of working, kind of enjoying the festivities, kind of, you know, going back and forth between the two probably.
Right. So he confronted the gunman in the lobby, and he managed to wrestle the gun away from him. And a lot of people actually called him a hero for this. So he wrestled the gun away in an effort to protect the family business, and the gunman fled when Brandon chased him out of the building. It was at this point that they found out that he was driving a white cargo van. Brandon watched him jump into it, kind of speed off kind of thing. And it was later discovered that this was the same gunman from the Monterey Park shooting, matched by the Cobra M11-9 semi-automatic pistol with an extended mag that Brandon had wrestled away from him. Now, incidentally enough...
So he was just going from dance studio to dance studio?
It comes up, believe it or not. So, incidentally enough, though, about this particular pistol, which it's a variant of the Mac 11.
Okay.
This pistol, along with that extended magazine, are both illegal in California.
Yeah, California real fun with their gun laws. Like, it's so hard to have weapons like that in California at all. Like, if it's not coming with, like, a fixed mag, basically, like, from factory, you can't have it.
Right. Now, it was reported, though, that the gun used in this incident had been purchased in Monterey Park in 1999. It was just never registered.
So if it was registered, it would have been grandfathered in.
Yes, probably.
Yeah.
Now, between the gun left behind and the description of the van that the shooter had fled in, the police were able to identify the shooter as Hu Can Tran. So about 12 hours after the incident started at 10:20 the following morning, the shooter was still at large the entire time. Cops were out looking. They had the description of this van, and they found it. And as they were kind of rolling up to it, they were running the plates and everything. And they're like, huh, that's kind of weird. These plates are stolen. That's a little fishy.
Of course they are. Oh my God.
So, and it matched the description perfectly.
Was Brandon able to give a good description of the person, or was he wearing like
I don't necessarily know that Brandon gave a description of the person, but he was able to bring the information forward about the van.
Because he probably could just give a description of clothing.
I would imagine so. I believe, I'm not positive, but I believe at this point they had already seen a picture of him on one of the security cameras, possibly. Okay. So they were like, well, the plates are stolen on this van, and this van matches the description, so we're going to kind of approach and be like, hey, what's up?
Yeah.
So they're walking up to the van, and they hear a single gunshot from inside the van.
Are you fucking kidding me?
I wish I was. So they were like, oh, shit, shots fired, go. And they run back to their car. They call for a SWAT team, ultimately.
Yeah, protocol.
Technology, man. So with the use of a drone camera...
I mean, it's the safest fucking way.
It really is the safest way, but can you imagine, like, sitting in a van and just seeing flying in front of you?
Oh, my God.
So with the use of the drone camera, they were able to see that the man in the driver's seat was slumped over the steering wheel, and they're like, well, I'm pretty sure he's dead, so we should be safe to move him with the SWAT team kind of thing. And they did find that he had killed himself with a Norinco 7.62 by 25 millimeter pistol. I had never heard of that type of pistol before this. I would imagine it's probably
That's a Teddy question.
That is a Teddy question, but he's at work, so we can't call.
Oh, no, he actually just got off,
So according to the sheriffs investigating the incident, Tran had actually previously lived only about 5 minutes away from the Star Ballroom. Mm-hmm. And at one point, he had frequented both the Star Ballroom and Lifeline studios. He occasionally even volunteered as a dance instructor there. But after clashing with some people at both studios, he stopped going. So Adam Hood, who rented a home from Tran, actually told reporters that he was often like super distrustful and suspicious of new people. And he often was saying that the people at the studios were talking about him behind his back. So it's pretty widely believed that that is why he went after those two studios, because he was like revenging a little bit, I guess. But reportedly, he had not been at either in at least 5 years prior to this shooting. He had lived the 5 minutes away from the ballroom studios, but he sold his house and ended up moving into like a trailer park for older folks, I guess. He was living in a double wide trailer, so like I feel like there was a pretty significant lifestyle change in that regard.
One of Teddy's friends actually has one of these. It's like a Russian model, kind of.
Okay, so the Norinco 762x25 Tokarev is... Oh, it's Chinese.
Is it Chinese?
It is Chinese.
Okay, I thought it was... I think
so
the
he probably brought it with him.
Possibly, yeah.
Possibly.
Because I think that was really big in the 90s and 80s.
So he hadn't been to either studio in at least 5 years before the shooting. And according to reports, it did appear that he wasn't really targeting anyone specifically. He was just kind of shooting.
Fuck these dance studios, essentially, right?
Pretty much.
Oh my god.
So at 72 years old, Hu Can Tran became the second oldest mass murderer in U.S.
He was
history.
72 doing this.
72 years old. The only person older than him to have committed mass murder was 73. I don't remember his name.
I'm sorry. Okay. All right. Either he was in like really, really good shape to do this.
Hu Can Tran?
Mm-hmm.
He was in reasonably decent shape, I'd say.
Well, I was going to say, because who was the one that wrestled the gun from him?
Brandon wrestled the gun from him.
I wonder if it wasn't too much of a fight. I mean, either way, trying to wrestle a gun from anyone is like really fucking dangerous.
A 26-year-old to a 72-year-old, it probably wasn't too much of a struggle for Brandon. But I
mean, one good kick to the back of the knee and he was down for the count.
Probably.
So, I mean...
Now, this is currently the deadliest mass shooting in the history of LA County, and it was the second of 3 mass shootings in California within a 1-week period. So, California's crazy.
Yeah, and see here... You can edit this out if you want, but it just kind of shows that like a lot of the places with the most heavy gun control
tend to be the ones with the most gun crimes.
Yes, and like the best fucking example is Chicago, because Chicago, like you can't own like anything. So, and they have, I believe, the most gun violence crimes.
I believe so.
And then you have Australia, and like they have it like really, really fucking hard to get anything other than like a hunting rifle, and you still have to like do a whole lot of stuff. But then they saw a rise.
New Zealand's the same way. There was that shooting in the church in New Zealand like a few years ago. That it was in like a mosque or something, I think.
Right. It's not the fucking guns, people.
They ended up pretty much making guns like almost impossible to get immediately after that. I do plan on doing a case on that at some point.
Guns aren't the fucking problem, because if criminals want to do something with a gun, they're gonna fucking find a way. They will fucking find a way.
That's the thing about them being criminals, is they find a way to access illegal things.
The only thing that you were doing is taking away guns from like law-abiding citizens who can use them to defend themselves. I'm sorry, like that's just how I feel. But it's like,
but they're the bad guys. Why would they care if they hurt the good guys?
Right.
So
again, California is a little fucking crazy with it, and like some of it's kind of laughable.
Yeah. So I'm gonna finish out this episode by mentioning all of the victims. This is either going to be really good or really bad, because there are a lot of Asian names, and sometimes I'm good at that stuff and sometimes I'm not. So we'll find out together. So 10 people, 5 men and 5 women died at the scene. They were Valentino Marcos Alvaro, age 68, Hong Ying Jian, age 62, Yu Lun Kao, age 72, Lillian Lee, age 63, Ming Wei Ma, age 72. She was the owner of the Star Ballroom that tried to rush him. Mai Mai Nan, age 65, Mui Dai Ung, age 67, Chia Ling Yao, age 76, Wen Tao Yu, age 64, and Xu Xuan Yu, age 57. The 11th victim that did die was Diana Manling Tom, age 70. She died at the USC Medical Center the day after the attack. They did actually end up canceling the second day of the event specifically because of all of this happening. 9 other people were injured in the shooting. 7 of them actually remained hospitalized as of a couple days after the incident. Some of them were in critical condition. However, I didn't find their names, understandably so. I wouldn't really necessarily want to be outed in this particular situation.
Right.
So that was our Lunar New Year case. It's a little bit of a shorter case, as a fair amount of the holiday cases will be, just because they're bonus episodes and they're being thrown in here out of my own sheer will and grit. So we will see you guys. Bye.